we bring all the interns together and in a formal professional development style setting. So there's different speakers, and we talk about what it means to be an agent of their own experience for the summer.
This is Hourglass, the podcast for United Way of King County in Seattle. Coming up, a conversation with Megan Barnes of Teens in Public Service, a Seattle-based organization that hires young adults for paid community service internships, then pairs them with nonprofits over the summer. United Way proudly spotlights Teens in Public Service, which pairs interns with several of our partner organizations. We will also hear about United Way's new Our Neighbor Fund, as well as a local volunteer opportunity. I'm your host, Joe Burris. Thanks for tuning in. The 2023-24 school year ended last week for many students in the King County area, just in time for summer and the array of outdoor activities that come with warmer temperatures. Now, there was a time in our country when schools out meant that summer jobs and internships were in. In fact, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, in 1979, teen participation in the workforce peaked to 57.9%, bolstered in part by summertime employment. Yet around the Great Recession, that number began declining, and by 2011, teen participation accounted for just 1/3 of the U.S. labor force. The COVID-19 pandemic dropped the percentage even further, and some analysts project it might continue to fall. The issue is not the lack of jobs, and contrary to what some might believe, teens want to work. Yet there are a few odds stacked against their employment. The pressure of maintaining year-round academic success has been a major factor. The Bureau of Labor Statistics says that in 1985, about 10.4% of students nationwide were enrolled in summer school in July. By 2016, that number had grown to 42.1%. Also, while students used to take summer jobs to help pay for college, the rising cost of higher learning has outpaced wages. As a result, students are more likely to take out loans to pay for school. And those who seek to work for the summer now face stiff competition from recent college graduates, older workers, and foreign labor. This is a concern for our labor landscape. Young people can help bring energy, creativity, and innovation into work environments. The right job can boost their confidence and help them learn about managing time and money. And while any summer job can benefit youth, summer internships offer young people an opportunity to gain firsthand knowledge of a potential career before they venture out into the workforce for good. Employer hiring platform Indeed said that summer internships give young people a chance to connect with possible mentors, build strong resumes, create professional networks, and transition to permanent jobs. But where can youth who seek such work go for opportunities tailored just for them? Fortunately, in the Seattle area, there's Teens in Public Service, an organization that since 1997 has provided opportunities through paid summer internships with local nonprofits. Since its inception, Teens in Public Service, or TIPS, has paired high school youth with community-based organizations that help those youth gain practical work experience and develop leadership skills. Interns are paid the Seattle minimum wage, which in 2024 is second only to Tukwila as the highest minimum wage for any city in the U.S. TIPS interns began work this month and will continue into August. And since TIPS pays the interns, it ensures that organizations get additional staff during the summertime at no extra cost. TIPS has placed more than 1,200 interns with more than 200 nonprofits. That accounts for an investment of more than 200,000 hours into local communities. TIPS interns work in organizations that provide resources for and advocate on behalf of people in local communities, including groups that serve those experiencing housing and food insecurity, immigrant and refugee populations, and the elderly. Several United Way of King County partner organizations have staffed TIPS interns for summer work, including Chief Seattle Club, East African Community Services, El Centro de la Raza, Red Eagle Soaring, and Technology Access Foundation. Each of those organizations work to develop young people into leaders of tomorrow, and TIPS is helping to make that happen. United Way of King County applauds Teens in Public Service for connecting young people with our partners and many other nonprofits those youth might not otherwise learn about. We recently sat down with TIPS Interim Executive Director Megan Barnes to hear more about the organization, namely its founding.
Teens in Public Service was founded back in 1997 by a mother-daughter pair. And the daughter had volunteered with Atlantic Street Center and had really enjoyed her experience there. And it came to the point where it made sense for her to get a job, and get paid for said job. And so her mom and the family talked through what that would look like if they could fund the high school student at the nonprofit, pay that student the minimum wage, but allow them to be donating their services to a nonprofit for the summer. And so it grew from there. So Maureen Brotherton, the founder, really through knocking on doors and driving around, found nonprofits that were curious and excited, especially because of the work at Atlantic Street Center. Quickly to follow was Union Gospel Mission, and then grew from there, Boys and Girls Clubs, etc., and just started to work with a smaller high school cohort that then grew year over year. And so 28 years later, we've got 75 interns being placed at 60 different nonprofits throughout the greater Seattle area this summer.
TIPS has served young people from as far south as Federal Way and as far north as Mukilteo. And the program has grown in part via word of mouth from students who have served as interns.
I think it's been really exciting because we've been able to scaffold up our outreach to high schools based on the students that come from those high schools. So then they go back and serve as ambassadors. They help table at events, throughout the year, lunch, cafeteria, talking about the TIPS program. We work with the career technical counselors at the schools. And so starting off with, 1, 2, 3 high schools in our first few years, and now having outreached over 80 different high schools. And so I think it really is the students talking amongst themselves, and then parents, caregivers recognizing, oh, my student did this TIPS program. It was really great. We have a pretty neat application process as well, where we do ask for letters of recommendation. And so as a result of that, the letters of recommendation are coming from, a student's community involvement, existing community involvement. So it could come from a leader at their church, or a coach, or a teacher, or even somebody that they babysat for. And so then those individuals all learn about the program, and then they start to talk about it with other young people that they meet, which is really, really neat. So this past year, we had applications from nearly 600 high school students. So the demand is there, right? Then the opportunity is absolutely there.
I can see what success might look like for them really being involved in a program like this. Mm-hmm. What does success look like for TIPS?
Yeah, we really operate with this dual impact model, right? We are all about youth development and career-connected learning, and giving these young people an opportunity to be paid and also have this second job experience. And then we're also serving the nonprofit and giving them the opportunity to have an engaged, passionate young person who wants to take on projects for the summer, who wants to bring meaning to the work and provide for outcomes with the nonprofit. And so success just is the continued support for these nonprofits and the growing reputation that TIPS interns have, as well as the youth that come back to us, in a volunteer capacity year after year, and are really engaged in wanting to continue to help grow the program.
In terms of the job aspect for a lot of these kids, I'm imagining
that for some of them, this might be their first job.
Yeah.
What is that like for all of you in terms of giving them work ethic, work etiquette, what transferable skills, the things that they should know and can take to other jobs once they leave?
Yeah, it's really neat. We just had our orientation 2 weeks ago for the young people that will be a part of this summer's cohort. And that is one of a few different touch points that happen throughout the summer where we bring all the interns together and in a formal professional development style setting. So there's different speakers and we talk about what it means to be an agent of their own experience for the summer. You know, I engaged the parents and caregivers in a session that was happening in tandem with that. And we also really underscored that this is the young person's opportunity to run point. And so we also equip them with understanding what are the safety standards that they need to make sure that they're having. And we have the same conversations with the nonprofits as well. And so we want to encourage them to ask questions and show up as their authentic self and to think through what values-centered leadership looks like, what community-centered leadership looks like. And then later in the summer, we have a leadership day and a day of service where we also infuse those same types of elements. We talk about mentorship and advocacy and stewardship and then networking, and some of those other basics that come with, okay, so you've been at your nonprofit for 4 weeks or 6 weeks by now. What have you learned? Who have you, what? And so thinking about those milestones and having different surveys throughout the summer also allow us to take a pulse and see how the students are doing, where they have gaps in some of their learnings or where they might not be getting what they want. And then having the same conversations with the supervisors. How are they doing? How is the interactions going? How can TIPS continue to serve almost as this human resources agent for the summer for both the intern and for the nonprofit?
And speaking of the nonprofit, what are the characteristics of the nonprofits that you enlist?
Yeah, it's really exciting. We've engaged over 240 different nonprofits in our 28 years. And year to year, we have legacy partners that come back. And then we've got partners that maybe had an intern for 15 years and then they took a break for whatever reason, or they developed their own program and then they wanted to come back. And then we have brand new nonprofits. So they really run the gamut of health and human services, environment, welfare. So it's really exciting to learn about what's happening in the community based on the nonprofits that come to us. I mean, it's a little bit of a push-pull strategy. We've got open enrollment for nonprofits to inquire about the opportunity, and they hear about us through other nonprofits, through volunteers that come to them that talk about the program. And so every year we get a new mix of nonprofits, but a lot of they're really focused on ensuring that they're going to provide a good experience for the intern too, and that's something that TIPS ensures happens as well.
Barnes said that some TIPS alumni go on to work for community-based organizations.
Technology Access Foundation, we have an intern starting this summer, and we're super excited about TAF. What's unique about TAF is we have a TIPS alumni that is actually there right now, Freddie Abramson. He was a TIPS intern back in 1998 at Union Gospel Mission and is now at TAF. So a full circle moment, which happens a lot. It's pretty exciting to have individuals come to TIPS, even applying for some roles on the TIPS staff who said, I was at Global Visionaries and we had a TIPS intern, or I was at Hunger Intervention Project and we had an intern, and now I want to work with you. So seeing it all come together and acknowledging that there's a lot of shared work that is happening in the community and the ecosystem of the social justice initiatives that are taking place in Seattle.
Okay, and so how long can a young person stay with TIPS? How long can they stay? The person stay with a particular organization?
Yeah, so we have the budget to allow the intern up to 160 hours of paid internship hours over the summer. A large percentage of the time, the intern works with their supervisor to stay on in a volunteer capacity, which is really, really neat. And that also helps fulfill some of the volunteer obligations that Seattle Public Schools has, or the intern school might also carry. And so that's really exciting. And oftentimes that happens into the school year. But we work with them for, it usually ends up being, 30 hours for about 4 to 6 weeks throughout the summer.
Barnes says that when she talks about the impact of TIPS, she too speaks from experience.
I actually was a TIPS intern back in 1998. So I have deep roots with the organization. I was a rising sophomore. And I was placed at a site called First Place, which is a school for housing insecure students. And I was a teacher's aide for the summer, and it was phenomenal. It was a really incredible experience. I feel really grateful for the opportunity. And so when I moved back to Seattle about 11 years ago, I got re-engaged with TIPS. I have a background in hospitality, so I helped with their luncheon and then ended up serving on their board, started to look at our alumni. We have over 1,200 alumni that are now out in the community doing all kinds of things, not always in public service, but many times there's ties back. And so wanting to understand the propagating leadership effect that TIPS has had. And so that's an area that I really honed in on also during my time on the board. And then last fall was having a conversation with the TIPS founder, and they were in need of a transitional leader. And I was working in a corporate philanthropic role for an AT&T's National Foundation and was going to be leaving that role. So I've been the interim executive director for the past 6 months, which has been really an incredible opportunity to give back to an organization that I believe so much in and help cultivate what the next 28 years of TIPS is going to look like for King County and the greater Seattle area.
Barnes said that applications for TIPS summer internships open in January, which means those interested in enrolling in the program will need to wait till 2025 to apply. But she said there are other ways for people to get involved with TIPS right now.
We're always looking for volunteers. We have over 80 volunteers from the community, former TIPS parents, prospective TIPS parents that join our application review teams, help out with our luncheon, which is in November. It's our primary fundraising vehicle. And then also we do site visits, where we go out to the nonprofits. So there's lots of ways that we really want the community of former TIPS parents, caregivers, TIPS alumni, young and old, to come back and re-engage in the TIPS process and just see how it's going.
Awesome. Megan Barnes, Interim Executive Director for Teens in Public Service. Thank you so much, Megan.
I really appreciate the opportunity, Joe. Thank you.
For more information about TIPS, log on to teensinpublicservice.org. United Way of King County recently launched the Our Neighbor Fund, a $12.5 million campaign to invest in strategies that keep families fed and housed and help college students stay in school. Our Neighbor Fund will enable us to provide students with free meals when school is out, leverage millions of dollars in rental assistance funding, provide students with emergency grants and housing assistance, and much more. Please help join the movement to make a difference in the lives of our neighbors. To give, log on to uwkc.org/donate. Looking for a volunteer opportunity? United Way of King County funded nonprofit Bird Bar Place has an opening for a food bank home delivery assistant. According to the organization's website, the food bank home delivery assistant will accompany the food bank coordinator on the home delivery route, helping deliver grocery bags of food to homebound individuals and families. The position lasts a minimum of 3 months and calls for up to 4 hours a week of service. Applicants must be at least 18 years of age and able to lift 25 pounds. For more information, log on to Bird Bar Place. That's BYRDBARRPLACE.org. At United Way of King County, we are working side by side with communities to build an equitable future for everyone. Hourglass United Way is a podcast that highlights how we and our partners spend time making a difference in our communities. Our work is made possible by the generous donations from people like you. Please send comments and suggestions about our podcast to hourglassunitedway@gmail.com. To learn more about our work or to support United Way, log on to uwkc.org. I'm your host, Joe Burris. Thanks for listening. Until next time.